Okay, please stand to a prayer and pledge again. Father, we ask right now that you continue to bless us now. We ask again that you continue to protect us as only you can do and you will do. We thank you for what you've done so far. Thank you for what you're going to do. And we bless your holy name now. Continue to bless us. Father, this skirmish is going around the country right now. The Russians and the people in that country, you just pray for them right now mightily, in a mighty way. We pray, oh Father, this country does not need a war. And we ask in your protection and your indulgence that we will be safe and you will make everything okay. These blessings we ask right now in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. For your hearing again, conference call line has been set up, 1-917-900-1022. Access code is 32347.
Line muted.
And this is not a toll-free number. You may be charged, subject to charges according to your long-distance plan. When the chairperson opens the meeting for public comments, please follow the instructions.
Line unmuted.
5, the moderator will unmute your line when it's your turn to speak and notify you by announcing the last 4 digits of your telephone number. Please announce your name and address, and you will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Any person wishing to address the board regarding an agenda issue item will be given 3 minutes. I'm gonna may only speak 1 time for each agenda item. With that being said, what do I hear? Do we motion for the agenda? You don't need a motion? No. Okay, being a workshop. It's this workshop, we do not make final decisions either, right? No. Okay. So we'll go to item 3, the board to discuss community mailbox structures.
Sure, either way you want to go.
Well, I'll just advise the board that there has been some discussion regarding a community group who would like to construct shelters, basically, or roofing type structures for community mailboxes primarily in the beaches area, I believe. There's, how many? 5. These are typically located at the entrance to subdivisions or areas like that. We have had several conversations with the Postal Service and have made suggestions to them of how they could accomplish this for their community-owned mailboxes. But after months and months, it seems like, of discussion back and forth, they have yet to move forward with the right-of-way use permit, and I don't believe they've made any movement to add these shelters to their community mailboxes. So the question is, if this volunteer group who would like to donate the time and materials, if they could construct these shelters. You have a copy of a sketch that was submitted. I did take this to our building official and ask about wind speed and any other criteria, and in that discussion, we recalled that in our right-of-way use permit in our LDCs, there actually is a prohibition within county rights-of-way for substantial structures. So, I mean, there is a process we can go through if the board wishes to deem this an acceptable structure. And then Commissioner Newman has had discussions with the volunteer group, and he can give you more information on that.
Yeah, so basically, this group has agreed to provide provide the labor materials and construct these coverings over these, 5 community mailboxes. So this would come with no cost, or liability to the county. So it's a volunteer base, it's, and really to just try to help people down in that area. And even to the agreement of necessary maintenance. So we try to cover all the bases to be sure that there's not, anything that taxpayers would be expected to, provide for this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bishop, I'd like to ask, what kind of liability concerns could we possibly be looking at with a structure such as this on the right of way?
Can't do it.
Say again?
You'll look at the, what was handed out to you, the prohibitions. The following shall be prohibited within county right-of-way. Construction of masonry or other substantial structures other than for permitted utilities. The problem you got is you're supposed to keep, your right-of-ways clear, okay? So if you violate your ordinance and put a structure that's, a substantial structure, I don't know how substantial these kind of things are, but I would assume that they would be rather substantial, then you would be violating your own ordinance. A way that you might be able to, if they put it on their own property instead of the right of way, that's okay. But if it's on the right of way, right now, the way the ordinance reads, it's pretty clear.
Well, and I understand, why they want such a structure as this, but I've got grave concerns about the liability and going against our ordinance. Clearly this would be against, like you just said, the ordinance, and I've just got concerns if we move forward with this. I understand why they want it, but I just don't think it's a good idea.
How many mailboxes we talking about on the shed? 50? 60?
Well, so they vary by different sites, and the length of the covering would vary with that, depending on how many residents are using those at that specific village.
Is this the postal services wanting to do this, or is this
No, it's not postal service doing that.
the individuals that want no shelter?
Individuals or individual? Which is,
It would be, really, the beneficiary folks would be the residents that are, or the occupants of those boxes, and of course, the workers that are working there around these boxes and things like that. That's who would benefit from this coverage.
wait a minute. In other words, if I wanted my mailbox,
Yeah, so this isn't for a single box, this would be for what would be considered a cluster, maybe as long as this table is with multiple boxes in there. So it's not an individual mailbox, these are our community boxes, which we could have anywhere from 20 to 70.
I think that'd be another issue you'd run into, not to mention that we'd be going against our ordinance to construct such as this, on the county right of way, but if you were to construct this, then what's to say every single individual wanted to construct some type of shelter over their mailbox? You have to let them do it. And I just don't think that's the direction that we would want to head.
okay, what the postal service got out there now, is it getting water in the mailboxes or something like that, and mail being damaged?
I think the issue is, if I can speak to this, Commissioner Newman, I think that the issue may be, what I've heard is that the carrier, as they are putting the mail in the boxes, there's no way to keep everything dry. So that the mail, when it, in packages, may get wet. In, you know, in the process of transferring from the vehicle to the boxes, is what I understand.
That's why you use an umbrella.
And on the individual boxes, they pull up there, stick it out the window of the vehicle. So they're not, you know, exposed to the rain and the sun. But when they have to get out in front of that long line of boxes and work one box after another, if it's raining or, you know, hot, they just won't. They approached me several years ago about that, and the liability part of it just didn't make sense, you know. I think we read the ordinance back then, and if somebody run into that structure and that lid fell down and come through the windshield, you know, it'd be bad. I don't understand why them boxes got put that way to start with, because, you know, everywhere else you got individual boxes. I see rows of individual boxes, and that they can pull up to. I don't know why the postal service even let them do those community boxes like that at one time. You know, I don't know where that.
That was probably driven by the postal service to not make so many stops. They do it one stop and drop all the mail in one place. I guess it probably wasn't the individual's decision.
And the fuel cost to drive, you know, through neighborhoods.
You can see them around the county. There'll be two posts and 2x8 run down there and be 7 or 8 boxes. And the person just pulls right outside of them and handles each box, you know, individual. I don't know. It's a pretty good structure. Somebody should run into it, not just building onto it, but the foundation and that box would be a pretty good walk if you run off the road and hit it, you know.
Yeah.
But the postal service back then didn't want nothing to do with it. They kind of, you know, U.S. Postal Service didn't, at that time, I asked postmaster about it, and they didn't want to hear it, you know. They didn't want liability either, I don't think, you know.
I don't think they want it today.
Uh,
I don't think they want it today either.
no, they don't.
I think,
That's the one I asked that question, where they wouldn't even answer the email, would they?
I did not get a response to the last email, or maybe the last 2 emails. I've emailed several times. And when we started this discussion, it didn't even dawn on us about the way the LBC read, until we were talking about wind rating and wind speed today. And then it was an afterthought. You know, that would be obviously an extra step in the process, since it's clear in the Land Development Code.
You know, on House Road, I had someone with some disabilities and they wanted the mailbox moved on just one side of the road to the other. And they was gonna do it. The post office wouldn't even allow them to do that. You know, their rules is pretty rich.
And we even sent pictures of, you know, the structures that could be mounted to the community mailbox units to try to help them with this issue. And there was no interest in doing that, from what I could tell.
I had a person that they were in a wheelchair, they had a wheelchair ramp in front of the house. They had to cross a gravel road to get to the mailbox in that wheelchair, not a gravel road, but I'm talking about a lime rock road with rocks and all that. And they wouldn't let her move her box over to the other side. We went down there and tried to level the county went down there and tried to level the road up as much as they could, where she could go across there for a mailbox, but every time it rained and much traffic, it was in the curve at the end of the road to turn around, it just made a mess. You had time getting her mail out of the mailbox, but the postal service did not, they didn't give a flip. They just wanted to move the box, you know.
All right, if there's any questions, Brother Steve Fox, who's here in the audience, he's drawn up this particular drawing, and if there's no, support from the board, if there's anything he'd like to contribute to that, I mean, he's worked together with folks to put together potential for, the labor and the materials with that, so. At this point, the board's saying that the liability is too great to take on the potential project.
Okay. All right, so we go to item number 4. The board to discuss potential sale of county-owned lots at Keaton Beach.
Me again,
Yes, sir.
me again. Okay. Gotta listen closely to this statute, okay?
So we have to do what now?
Can you speak up?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You gotta listen closely to this statute, okay?
Okay,
Because it's a winding thing. The county is authorized to sell real and personal property. That's number one. You are authorized to do that.
you're not.
You are authorized to do that.
Okay.
But, under section 2 of the ordinance, let me just read it to you and give you the, when the Board of County Commissioners finds that a parcel of real property is of insufficient size and shape to be issued a building permit for any type of development to be constructed on the property, okay, that's the first part. When you decide, or, it's not and, it's or, when the Board of County Commissioners finds that the value of the parcel of real property is $15,000 or less, as determined by a fee appraiser designated by the board, or as determined by the county property appraiser, and where the size, shape, location, and value of the parcel is to be determined by the board, that the parcel is of use only to one or more adjacent property owners, the board may effect a private sale. So, I think we've got both of these two pieces appraised already, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're not appraised under $15,000.
Yes, sir.
But that doesn't keep you from doing it, because if you decide, and if the parcel of real property is of insufficient size and shape to be issued a building permit, okay? As I understand it, that both these pieces of property where they're located, they're not large enough to issue a building permit.
No, sir. One of them, and I put a copy of the boundary survey.
Uh-huh,
The smaller piece is not considered buildable.
okay,
The larger piece is, because if you take into consideration the setbacks, and it's drawn on the boundary survey on each parcel so y'all can see it. If you consider the setbacks, according to our building official, you could construct a 1,000 square foot house, with a 200 square foot porch.
okay.
So the
Let's
larger
take-
piece,
Okay, thank you. But let's take the one at a time,
okay,
okay? The one that's such that you can't build on,
yes,
okay? And it's appraised at more than $15,000.
yes.
So, what can you do with that? You can, the board, you may effect a private sale, okay? In other words, you don't have to advertise and bid it out. Of course, you always can do that. The board may, after sending notice of its intended action to the owners of adjacent property by certified mail, that's certified return receipt requested, effect a sale and conveyance of the parcel at private sale without receiving bids or publishing notice. However, if within 10 working days after receiving such mail notice, 2 or more owners of adjacent properties notify the board of their desire to purchase a parcel, the board shall accept sealed bids for the parcel for such property owners and may convey such parcel to the highest bidder or may reject all offers. Everybody follow that crazy statute? Okay, so with regard to the parcel that's buildable, then you can follow this statute and, send notice to adjacent owners if you decide you want to sell it. And then if two or more of them, say they want to buy it, then they would have to give us sealed bids, and then there's that 10-day window after receiving such notice. Two or more owners notify the board that their desire, then you accept sealed bids, and you can take the sealed bid, and you can say, of course, like we always do with bids, you can reject them. Or you can take the, the highest one.
Question, if I may, Mr. Chairperson. So you need a minimum of 2 bidders?
There's not two adjacent landowners on that side of the road, I don't think there's one.
There's
Just
one.
one.
That was gonna be my question. So there is just one adjacent landowner.
For both parcels, it should be.
Well, if there's just one, adjacent owner, we still send the notice to them, the notice, just to cover ourselves. And then that person could make an offer with us, make an offer.
We had it appraised, and,
Yes.
we, y'all saw the appraisal.
Yes.
That's why I said it's over $15,000, of course.
So basically, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
so, we can, offer that property to the adjacent homeowner, and, would we just say, give us give us a price, or do we say, okay, this is what we're asking for this property, whatever that appraised value is? Because you said something about the bid, but, would you put it up for sale for the appraised value?
Well, I think that, you have the authority to say that, you want the appraised value of it, or they can come close to that. I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to recommend to y'all as your attorney to, lower it a whole lot. That wouldn't be, as stewards of county property and stewards of county money, that wouldn't be it. It would be capricious. You don't want to do that. So it's kind of and y'all needed to get it appraised so you knew what the market value of it is.
Yeah, if we're gonna go that direction, I think we probably should offer it to the adjacent landowners with the appraised value, and then they can have the option to come back with a bid. No, we don't have to accept, a lower offer, but obviously they're gonna come back with a lower offer. They potentially could come back with a lower offer than the, appraised value.
And then if he didn't take that, it would have to put it out for bids for the general public.
You could do that, or you could just say, we're just gonna keep it.
But, I mean, like Mr. Bishop said, it wouldn't be very wise to take anything less than your appraised value based on our citizens' property.
Everybody got a understanding of that? It's, like
Yeah,
I said, it's a goofy statute, and you gotta read it. I had to read it, like,
Did you say goofy?
goofy, yeah.
I thought that's what I understood.
Wow. I would say it take a Philadelphia lawyer to figure it out.
Yeah, you know about him. But anyway, what are we gonna discuss it? We talk about it. Just like the one that non-billable, offer to the adjacent landowner and let him mess at the price we think we need. There's the price tag. That's one option.
Well, I said before, we discussed this before, for sure on that one small parcel that adjacent owner, I believe, has been caring for that piece as if it's been their own for ever how many years, so I feel like it would be right to offer that piece for sure to that adjacent landowner.
It would be a blessing to him to have that extra property, because they've used it and parked on it all these years,
I mean,
you know.
So is the adjacent property owner here tonight?
Okay.
Well, we have both adjacent property owners, correct?
I've got the small, or I'm next to the small piece.
You wanna see if he wants to say anything?
Yeah, you wanna say something?
I do. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name's Greg Collins, and really the thing I want to address is, on the appraisal, they had 3 different comps, but all of them were full-size 50 by 100 lots, with that 50-foot having full road access. This particular little piece that we're talking about, the road side of it is around 44 foot long. Over half of that is the bridge guardrail. So in order for someone to access that property, they're gonna have to swing wide, and there's a guardrail on the other side. So they're left with cutting through the corner of my property to get into that one. Now, if you're driving a small car or whatever, you could do it. But you're talking about a little over 20 foot of drive access. To get a trailer in there, you would have to go past that lot and back that trailer in. And there's no way, and if you notice, that's not a 90-degree turn there. So if you get a trailer in there to go out back towards the boat ramp, there's no way to make that turn.
What kind of trailer are you talking about? A boat trailer or a house
Yeah,
trailer?
any kind of trailer. Well, a little utility trailer you might be able to do, but a boat trailer or, trailer of any length, you're not gonna be able to make that turn. You know, there's not really any other properties down there that would give a good comp for the appraiser to come up with a price that they did. It's irregular shaped piece of property. And there's really, you know, we've maintained it for 12, 15 years and mowed it. The only time we've ever parked on it was when we were cleaning the bottom of our deck. You know, we don't park on it, we don't use it, we don't put trailers on it. It's just there. So, you know, to me, the appraisal price of $58,000 for that part was, in my opinion, excessive. You know, for the use that you can get out of that property. It really, it's just a irregular shaped piece of property that, we've just maintained and, taken care of. Me personally, I'd really like to see the board just, for the county to keep the property and let us continue keeping it up and, do that. I don't know if that's, an option or not, but, at least it is maintained and, so.
There is a provision that we can lease property.
Okay.
Under the statute, so, yeah, that's what you're interested in. Yeah. Of course, the board can't make any decision tonight because it's a workshop.
I understand.
No. I'm sure the board appreciates your position.
We had a gentleman that was interested in buying the lot, at one time. I don't know if he still is or not, I haven't heard from him in a long time, but we had one gentleman that was interested in using that lot.
Yeah.
He probably, of familiar with him, trap, man down there at trap.
I know some of them down there.
I mean, he was interested in buying the lot, and I don't know what he paid for the lot,
Yeah.
but he, all he wanted to do is just let his scrap boat back and forth on it, you know?
Yeah.
They told me.
Well, now, on our lot, excuse me, on that small piece, that's on the, east side of Marina Road there. And, the flow of water, when it comes through the bridge, it swings around towards that other road. So that part right there on that piece of property is, probably a foot or two of mud. So for a crab boat to, you know, really be able to use that, we get out with our little, you know, smaller boats, but I don't know if a crabber could get out. I'm sure they could because they'd work the tides like we do. But,
And they're gonna dredge the canal before long too down there.
I've heard that for a few years.
I said before long, I didn't say next week.
But anyway, I just want you to know that, you know, we've kind of taken care of it like it was ours, and, you know, it's always,
You can get in your mind, as far as I'm concerned, get in your mind a figure that, you know, that you could live with to own that piece of property. And, you know, we considered it at the time, that's all we do.
yeah. Do you mind if I ask you, have all of y'all seen this piece of property that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
I have. Okay, all right. Because you understand about the guardrail and,
Anybody that goes in with a trailer would just about have to back it in. I mean, if you go in forward, you're going, I don't know how you're gonna get out with it, but you about have to back a trailer in, anything that you pull in there.
and down on Marina Road, you know, we've had to do it on our lot next to us. You know, had to put a barrier up, because if you don't put a barrier up, people are gonna use that. They'll back trailers around, so if this lot should go to somebody else, I just feel sure that we'd have to put some kind of immovable object on our corner, you know, to keep them from using our property to gain access or exit their property. I just don't think the appraisal was, I don't know, accurate, for, you know, the conditions that you have for that property. I just hope y'all, you know, take that under consideration and.
Mr. Chair. Okay. We ordered an appraisal, and we got the results of an appraisal. And I've spent a good bit of time thinking about this. And the first thing that I was thinking was, what did he use for comp? And my guess is that there was not a comp that he could use. So as I tried to think through this, then the next thing that I thought about was, well, he probably used comps for what has been already been sold, thinking that if you bought the property, then that would make your piece of property then like the comps that he's using. You'd have a bigger piece of property, and of course, you would have a net gain, because now you've got a bigger whole piece of property instead of somebody having a little piece of property. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do, I don't agree, but, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but that little piece really doesn't add value. I mean, I guess it would add value to ours, but, you know, the way our house is placed, you know, that little piece is not, you know,
I see what you're saying. I think if I think through it, the value added would be that someone doesn't buy it and put crab traps on it. To me, that would be the value. And then I think if you were to have that piece of property and then at some point in time you sell that piece of property, you're gonna have a net gain because now you've got a bigger piece of property. But then I think through, well, you know, I've tried to look at both sides of this, so I'm just really telling y'all my thought process. And then you've got, since we have the appraisal, and then if we sell that property to someone for less than that appraised value, then we're gonna have a lot of citizens that are gonna complain of how we use our tax dollars, just like our attorney just said would happen, and it will.
I agree.
And so then we're in a position, we're not in a very good position there. I certainly, I understand how you feel. I would want that piece of property and I wouldn't want to pay the appraised price for it either.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and I know I'm talking in circles, but I'm trying to just give y'all my thought process. If we accept this appraisal, now, you know, I guess we could get another appraisal. And I don't know if another appraisal would be any different than this appraisal. I know the person that made the appraisal has been doing appraisals for a long time. But I suppose that would be an option to get another appraisal. Of course, that would cost us more money. Or we could accept the appraisal the way it is. And then again, when it comes down to it, I guess if this board decided, well, we don't think that appraisal was good enough, so we're gonna let you have it for a lot less. And then that puts us in a real precarious situation too. It's to me, it's a complex issue, and I've been giving it a lot of thought, you know, knowing how you feel. And then looking at my responsibility to the citizens too. And you know, you come to a point here where we are, and sometimes it's hard to make a decision because I feel for you. I know you've been maintaining it for all this time. You don't want something undesirable there right next to you, but yet then I look at my responsibility to the taxpayers too. So this is not easy for me.
Yeah.
It's not easy for me.
Well, I mean, and I completely understand your position, all of you, and, you know, I'm not asking, you know, to give it to us. I mean, that's great, but like I said, to me, and, you know, I value appraisals. I mean, that's what they're for. But for this particular piece of property, without any really valid comps to go by, and based on, you know, the being able to come in and out of the property and use it to its full extent, which I don't know would be much, but $58,000 for that little part, you know, if it's square, had perfect access, sure. But with everything else combined, I just don't see that kind of value in that piece of property. I mean, it's dirt, but, you know, that's how I feel about it. And I know that y'all have a job to do too. And, like I said, you know, personally, I like y'all, it'd be nice if y'all just drop it and just continue like it was, and, you know, but, you know, but I think my 3 minutes are probably up. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Let me read y'all the first paragraph of 12535. The Board of County Commissioners is expressly authorized to sell and convey any real or personal property and to lease real property belonging to the county whenever the board determines that it is in the best interest of the county to do so, to the highest and best bidder for that particular use the board deems to be the highest and best. Of course, such length of term and such conditions as the governing body may in its discretion determine. So that's what I said. I saw some brows furrowed when I heard Mr. Collins say about, is there another way? There's a way you could lease it. But again, that would be, it would be the person that, gave the best bid for the lease and for what period of time that would be. I just want y'all to understand that.
In other words, if you could, at the least, if you'd have to give it other people option to lease it, too.
Right. Correct.
You need them.
Yeah, I bid such and such per year for
Yeah.
10 years,
Okay.
Now we need to, okay.
Well, I guess, at some point in time, in the past, somebody said, let's sell it and put it on the tax roll. I think that's kind of what all happened, so,
What I heard, yes, ma'am.
yeah, I mean, so,
I thought that was the board's position, honestly.
that was my understanding.
And I respect, Mr. Collins' work, and I certainly appreciate that. But I also understand this appraisal says the people's property and the opinion of this assessor is at this value. So that's when I take it at, that's the face value that I see there. As far as all the comps and all those other things, I'm not so sure about that part. But I believe that's what this board's opinion was, is that there's no use for the people given these parcels of property. So that we came to this place and we asked staff to get appraisal and survey so that it could be sold. And I don't disrespect any of these folks, I appreciate the work you do, and I respect that, but, we're both trying to do a job. I mean, you're a landowner there, I don't disrespect that a bit. But these particular parcels belong to the people. And they're of this value according to the appraiser that we utilize to assess this value. And, I'm not trying to, take advantage of any particular market. This is the value that was placed on these parcels. So in my mind, that's what the people would expect in return for their property. And that's the responsibility of the board.
I think and I gave a lot of thought to this, the appraiser, I guess at some point in time, they have to make a judgment. In probably a lot of cases, it's their professional judgment, I guess. I'm trying to rationalize, how did they come up with this price? I guess I could say I was a little bit surprised. I'll admit that it was appraised out this high.
Mr. Chairperson,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
address that? So I did send an email to the appraiser and asked him to confirm that the appraisal for that particular lot reflected the fact that it is not buildable. I told him I did see that your report mentions limitations due to the size and shape of the property. And he said that this is correct, that it is unlikely that the lot is buildable. However, it may be possible for some sort of structure to be placed on it through a request for a variance to be granted. And he ends with, I never say never. So I did request, him to verify that the appraisal did reflect that we felt like it was not buildable. And his stance was, a variance could be granted.
He probably put into consideration that you could build a floating dock there and build a fish cleaning house and a place to park your boat and truck and trailer while you was out fishing, and a place to, he probably took a lot of ideas for what you could use it for, I would think.
He
A
did
lot of
say
people would love to have a place to park their boat, trailer, and truck while they was down there and have a floating dock and a fish cleaning house there on their property, you know, so.
But I do agree that the comparables were not like this particular lot.
Again, I can't help but think that he wasn't thinking, and at the end of the day, you've added to a piece of property that is gonna be a net gain at some point in time.
Well, he could build on his house, once he got that added, that piece of property added to his, he wouldn't, his setback would move way over. You know, somebody bought the house in the future, they could build another bedroom and bathroom on it or whatever, you know, onto the house, so. It's a, you know, I'm sure the appraiser took all that into consideration too, because that's what he does, you know.
So where are y'all leaning? Are you leaning to, still keep it on the market for the appraised price, or what are the thoughts? What are y'all thinking?
My thinking would be, we wouldn't have hired Mr. Jim Brent.
Yeah.
If we had any other thoughts, because that, from what I understand, how long has the county owned this property?
For years.
Years and years.
All right, we've been kicking the can down the road, and I think I read that on something, one commissioner said some years ago. This can done gone further than it needs to go, and every time we go and talk about this, it's not the first time I heard it.
We need to go ahead and keep it on, go with what we're going with, I think, that's my feeling.
So that'd be one can we won't have to kick no more if we ever make a decision.
I agree, we put it on we did all this to head down the path to get it back on the tax roll, so I don't think we need to back up.
No. There'd be so many things on that can kicking down the road, be so many things, you won't be able to do anything. Not only you, the lawyer won't either, our attorney won't be able to do anything. We just have cans on the, kick down the road. I can understand all of our feelings. I can understand Mr. Collins. I can understand his feeling. How well can I? Go ahead.
I was just wondering, are we gonna? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. We were Renee Webb,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if we were still gonna discuss the bigger piece of property, or that's
We
next?
want to go to the biggest piece.
We're going second after that.
Okay, wasn't sure, okay. That's all, I was just.
Well, what you need to do with regard to this first one would be put it on your agenda so you can make a decision.
Next agenda.
I would, that's my suggestion, so that can doesn't get bent anymore.
Okay. Is that the feeling of the board, we put it on the agenda next?
Yes.
The first meeting, the second? Next one.
Next meeting, let's go ahead and.
When is that? When is the first, next meeting?
February 7th.
February 7th. Okay, all right, good. The second piece of project, or this, that's the larger piece. Anyone want to speak to that?
I think we treat it the same way.
Okay.
Well, it's, I think that, Luanda said that it is buildable.
Yes, if you'll look at a copy of the boundary survey, you'll see our building official's notes that it feels like if you take the setbacks into consideration, that you could build a 1,000 square foot home
Okay.
with a 200 square foot porch.
Okay.
So what you are authorized to do on that particular instance it wouldn't be subparagraph 2 that we just mentioned that we were working on the property that Mr. Collins wants. It would just be, 1A, that the Board of County Commissioners is expressly authorized to sell and convey any real or personal property and to lease real property belonging to the county whenever the board determines that it's in the best interest of the county to do so, to the highest and best bidder for the particular use that the board deems to be the highest and best use for such term and such conditions as the governing body may in its discretion determine. So essentially what that's saying is that you can put it up, and bid it off.
accept or reject the bid, either one.
Yeah, oh, you always be able to do that, that'll be part of the, so, that would be one that you put on the agenda for the next meeting to determine whether you want to sell it, and then if you want to sell it, you sell it by, advertising for bids and bid it off. With reserving the right to reject any bid, any and all bids.
Okay?
Did y'all want to speak?
We would love to
So
speak.
the adjacent property owners for that
Okay.
parcel are here.
Jason, profit on
We're gonna adjacent property owner?
Um,
I didn't know you had an adjacent property owner.
yes, we do, yeah,
How many, one, two?
just us.
You, her?
Mm-hmm.
What's your name?
Renee Webb. We bought the, house, we live in the little yellow house that's next door to that property, and we purchased that property last March. We were told under the understanding, and I know it wasn't told by the county, but when we bought the property, the realtor had told us that that was county-owned property. Our grinder pump is actually on that property, and we were told due to the size and the shape of that property, that it was unsellable, it was unusable, and that the owners before us lived in that house, they lived there for 20 years and always took care of it and mowed it, and that's what we were expected to do, so that's what we did. Shortly after we moved in, that's when we were notified by a neighbor that the house was going on the market. So, this is kind of emotional for us, because this is our life savings. Y'all have got our life savings in your hands right now. We're not rich people. I'm a nurse. I take care of people. And,
Who told you that?
I was gonna say, did a realtor tell you that?
yes,
Two of them,
two of them. So,
and I got witnesses.
anyway,
We were sold property
No,
on
just-
false pretense.
just hold on. I prayed and prayed about this. This is hard in a nutshell. All we're asking is at least give us first right of rejection on it. Whoever buys that property, it can affect the value of our property. We weren't expecting that property to ever be sold. When we bought the house, we moved in, and there's a huge tree there, and it houses about 15 pelicans. And, I call it the lagoon, and it's just, I'd just rather you keep it, turn it into a green space, let the community enjoy it. There's even alligators that go up in there. I don't know if you can turn it into like a little park, but if you don't, at least let me do it. Your life savings is there, and it's just, I just want you to take into consideration when you sell it, who you sell it to. You know, if somebody builds a 1,000-square-foot house, it's gonna sit on top of us. You're gonna be able to look down and see into our living room. And, I don't know, y'all, I'm sorry. I prayed, I said, God, just let me say, just say what, let me just say the right thing. Don't say. Just pray, please give us first right of refusal on it, so at least we know that nothing is gonna be put there that would hurt us. We didn't really realize when the survey, guy did our survey, after all this came about, and we pulled our survey out, he put the pin inside of our seawall, and I'm like, well, that can't be right. But he got out there looking, and there was actually another pin that was on the other side of our seawall that made more sense. And then when the survey guy come out, he actually pulled it up out of the ground, and I don't know, we're just at your mercy, and we just ask for first right of refusal, because we are citizens, we love Keaton, you know, we love it here. I work at the hospital, try to do my part, and You want to say something else?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to ramble, it's just, I just want you to know that, that there's a human side of that there, that, you know, this is our life savings.
Well, I want to say, my heart goes out to you, and I really hate that you're in this predicament that you're in. And I don't know who your realtor was or what kind of recourse you have there, if any, but, I'm just really, I'm very sorry for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm just asking, if please just let us have first right of refusal on it. So at least if we can get it, that we can continue to take care of it and make sure that it doesn't devalue our property. I mean, that little yellow house don't look much on the outside, but we've been working really hard on the inside.
My name's J.D. Webb, and you're probably gonna do what you like to do. All I request that while y'all have that property is move the northeast pin back 12 inches to the original marker, where it makes my house 10 foot off property line like it was built. And, you know, if we have a chance to buy it, I'd like to own it, but no matter what happens, that there is an original pin cemented in that I found, and everything measures off of that house. I've been building this for over 30 years. I know all about laying out houses, pulling pins, setbacks, and that's all I'm requesting, is to make my house back to 10 foot while you still have the property you can do it with, just that one round right there. That's all I request.
You said there's a pin, 2 pins out there?
Yes, sir. There's an original old timey pin that they used to cement in, like 4x4, and some of them put dates on them. It's still there, and they set the pin, it's about 10 inches. I do have a 2x6 board on the seawall, so I don't know if they meant, you know, didn't wanna put it in the seawall, set it to the inside. But the original pin, my house measures exactly 10 foot, which is code down here to build 10 foot off the property line. So whatever happens, while y'all still own it, just, if you would consider moving that back corner around a foot to make my stuff legal. And like I say, if y'all would give us the first to buy it, then we would love to buy it, and you know, if it works out, we will. If it don't, hope we get great neighbors, and thank y'all.
I'm not an attorney, but I think being it was built and done that way,
Yeah.
you pretty much grandfathered in on your distance on your, wouldn't you say, Mr. Bishop?
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't know, I mean, when they, like, you know, they put the pin and they put the style, it was on the inside of the seawall.
Right.
So, that's all I'm considering, and my house, it throws my house off.
I think you grandfathered into that point on, you don't have to worry about your
So I
setback
still
on your
got 10
on your house, you know, I feel.
I mean, I know what you're saying, but I want it to be the legal 10 foot, you know.
Because they might want
You're
to
saying
set
I'm
one
grandfathered in at 9 foot, but I want it to be the 10 foot. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could ask Mr. Bishop, is it possible to offer these folks the same option as Mr. Collins?
I don't think so. I'm sitting here reading this statute, because it says, when the Board of County Commissioners finds that a parcel of real property is of insufficient size and shape to be issued a building permit for any type of development to be constructed on the property, or when the Board of County Commissioners finds that the value of a parcel of real property is $15,000 or less, as determined by the fee appraiser designated by the board, or as determined by the county property appraiser, and when due to the size, shape, location, and value of the parcel is determined by the board that the parcel is of use only to one or more adjacent property owners, the board may effect a private sale. Okay, well,
They're the one adjacent property owner, I believe.
yeah, but the problem is, it's not such, it's not of the size, shape, location, and value that, that makes it such that you can do it by private sale. Are you following what I'm saying?
I thought I heard an or in there, not and, and it's contingent upon.
Well, again, or when the Board of County Commissioners finds that the value of the parcel, real property is $15,000 or less. $15,000 or less, as determined by the fee appraiser, okay? And the value of the parcel is determined by the board that the parcel is of use only to one or more adjacent property owners. That's why the statute is so, like I said, to start with, is backwards and forwards.
I believe it was Goofy.
So, again, this is another case where the first part of the statute says that you could sell it, you know, or you can lease it, or you can do nothing.
We ain't gonna do that, we gonna stop that, do nothing.
But if you sell it, there's terms in which you're bound in this particular parcel. In other words, I guess my question is still the same. Can we offer that parcel just as we talked about offering to Mr. Collins, to this adjacent landowner?
I'm not going to answer that question tonight.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly we wanna have all the research to.
Yeah, it's got to be researched, because I was under the impression and that both parcels were the same, which would have been good as far as rendering an opinion, but this is different. Because it's,
Well, this can't be the only parcel that's ever fell into this category.
no,
Perhaps if we have a precedent.
we haven't had this
Not that
this
particular
particular
parcel.
problem in I will tell you 32 years.
Yes, sir.
And that's the length of time I've been the lawyer here.
Clerk, could you, if this did go to a sale bid process, how would that bid process work? Are they gonna start it, they wouldn't start it, folks show up and they just throw out a bid of what they're willing to pay and?
Yeah, I believe it's a sealed bid, so they would submit a sealed bid, and then those bids would be open like any other bid, you know, here at one of your regular meetings.
Well, that's the way you wanna do it, with these sealed bids.
With that, the board could set the minimum at the appraised value.
Yeah,
Good.
You don't have to accept any of them if they're on it.
Certainly you could reject them, but I'm saying you would know that the appraised value, you communicate that to the public. This is what the value of the appraised piece is.
Yeah, that way the person could determine whether he or she wanted to bid
Yes, sir.
and not waste their time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Gary, how many properties do we have in the county that we own, such as this? Do we have a lot of properties that we're sitting on?
I don't know the answer to that, but I would think there are others.
Okay, is that something we could find out?
Yeah, we can gather up, you know, what the county owns. You know, I just know just some things that I've looked at, sometimes when I go to the property appraiser's website and it shows county commissioner property, I don't always find a deed
Right.
for that property to the county commission, so, you know, there may be some issues like that, but we can certainly start gathering a list of those types of properties. And, you know, making sure that we do have deeds to them and all that kind of stuff.
The reason I bring the question up is, my guess is gonna be that we own probably several properties. And we haven't, up until this point, we haven't been compelled to put those on the market to be sold. And as I think back in history, I don't remember anything being said about these properties at the beach being put on the market to be sold until we had an issue a year or two ago, however long it was, with crab traps being there. And it was very offensive to people that live nearby. And I think that's what started all of this. So I don't know that we really are compelled to sell these properties in the first place.
Not.
And we don't have to do anything. Because if we feel like we gotta sell these two, then why don't we put them all on the market then, that the county owns? You see what I'm saying? So why are we just picking out these two? But if it does so happen that the board doesn't want to do what I'm thinking that I may wanna do, and just, let's don't worry about selling them right now, because we're not compelled to do that. But if the board decides, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and sell them, then we need to look at all the other properties we own. And if that's the case, and Mr. Collins, for instance, for whatever reason, decides that he won't or can't buy the piece of property that's adjoining him, then there needs to be something put in place that he doesn't have to worry that his quality of life is gonna be, affected by maybe somebody putting a bunch of crab traps there. Because, I have to think about if I was you living there, okay? If I could afford to buy the property and the county wanted to sell it, then I probably would. Or unless just by principle, I felt like this is just ridiculous and I'm not paying that much because it's against my principles. But, I certainly would not want to, whatever my reason was for not purchasing that property, to fear that there's gonna be a big stack of crab traps or something offensive to me there. That just seems not right to me. So my proposal would be, unless we're gonna put all our properties on the market, let's not worry about this.
Where all this started from was Mr. Allen Bishop, the one that was wanting to use that to unload his crab trap, is where all this started.
Yeah.
He wanted to buy the lot from the county,
Right.
if the county would sell it or lease it to him and let him use it. Because he wanted just to have a place where he could back his trailer load of crab traps in there and unload them on his crab boat and pull them back out. And, that's where all that started.
Right, but I don't see why we have to, that we necessarily need to sell these properties. Especially if this gentleman cannot buy that, and then if somebody else did that, and there's nothing in place that would safeguard him against something so offensive. And I don't think, no, the first one of us in this room would want to have somebody to have a bunch of crab traps or something offensive next door to them, as close as that is. I just don't feel right about that.
You've got it down there now. There's people that's got crab boats and stuff, that unload all that stuff out there.
They're already there, but we're talking about creating another potential problem, which we have control of that. We've got control of that right now today, that we don't let that happen again.
But there's people down there that make a living with that crab trapping.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
their livelihood. I mean, I don't want to step on their toes neither, just saying, no, we can't let you. The reason he wanted to do that was because he holds up the boat ramp down there on the public boat ramp, unloading his crab trap. Because he doesn't have no other place to unload. He has to load just enough on his boat and back his boat in the water and go with it. He don't have a place to take them on and off, and he only does it every now and then, and that's what all of them do. They carry the traps out at the beginning of the season, and they put them out, and they, the only ones they bring back in is the ones that need repairing or whatever. The rest of the time, all they do is carry their bait and put in the boat and go on to their crab traps and bring the crabs back. It's not.
Well, maybe we could work with this gentleman that you're talking about, because I understand somebody's livelihood, and I'm not against the crabbers, okay? And maybe we could work with him that, with what would be the best time, if he could work with us on the best time to use the public boat ramp. And like you say, it's not that much anyway. And since this came up the first time, he obviously has been making it somehow or another without this piece of property. I'm not against him. I don't want anybody to think that I'm against him or anybody else trying to make a living. But I'm also concerned about somebody that already has been in a place for so many years, and for us to do something all of a sudden that would just, interfere with the quality of their life. So if we could help the crabber by working out something at the public vote round, maybe a time or something that would be best.
They work the tide just like everybody else does, that's the reason. He can't just come float tide when nobody else is going fishing, you know?
Well, then people have to wait on him then, if that's what it is. If it's
They
only a few that you're talking about, and it's seldom, then that's just, not many times that there's an inconvenience then, I would think. I'm just trying to make it work. What I'm trying to do is make it work for everybody, try to make it work for the crabbers, and try to make it work for these people here too. And if we can reach a happy medium here, and everybody be somewhat satisfied, I think that would save us and them a lot of grief.
I hear you, and it sounds like everybody's concerned is concerned about Mr. Collins and whoever. But if Mr. Collins sold it tomorrow and somebody else moved in, would he have the same concern? That person moving in, Mr. Collins might want to do crab traps.
Exactly.
Now, let me tell you something else. I have a feeling for people, but I can remember here not too long ago, we were talking about some land, you know, and we sort of told a developer he couldn't do certain things, and people that was up there talking, they might have sold the place, and now we can do anything we want to. So, what's gonna happen when Mr. Collins leaves it?
I think one thing, if I could, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
It should be so that if we got a law, we can follow the law. And the law applies to everybody, not just one or two. Now, as far as, you know, I heard about this crab trap business. I've been on the board 5 years, and I don't know how long you've been there, Pam. That's the first time you heard in 16 years or 15 years?
Yeah, but just a year and a half ago, yes, that's true.
Well,
Yeah, and he made it till then, he's made it since then, and I am sensitive to him, but I'm sensitive to these people too. That's why we need to work out a win-win situation for everybody.
We need a commercial unloading area, people like that, is what we need, but we really don't have that there.
But the part of the issue with these particular parcels is the county does own them, but the county doesn't have a use for these parcels. So this isn't an apples and apples comparison to every parcel that Taylor County owns with the potential use in the future. So, you know, I've researched and I've looked and I've spoken with a host of folks as far as a potential use for these parcels. And I have to tell you, I do not have a potential use for these parcels for the county or for the taxpayers to benefit. And so when this board said, let's put it back on the tax roll, I can assure you, I've looked and researched and tried to find a way to see if there was a potential use. And I found none. So I would tend to agree with Mr. Dents. We do have statute. We do have guidance. And as far as I understand, I can't see where the public or the taxpayers have a gain in continuing the use of these parcels. Now, if I didn't look somewhere and I made a mistake and there is a use for the people of Taylor County to maintain and keep these parcels, I'd sure be glad to hear it. But I just can't say that I found that use.
Mr. Webb, was you gonna say something?
Yeah. I'll say that we are the people of Taylor County.
Hold on.
Okay, but we are the people of Taylor County, and we live right there. We live there. It's like if you've got a piece of property over on the other side of town, I'm sure, I mean, I'm not gonna worry, I would not care if you sold that to their adjacent property. I mean, I just don't understand, I mean, this is our livelihood. I mean, it's a little lagoon there. There's lots of things you can do with that little spot. Put some benches, build a little thing, make a canoe, make it where kayakers can come and there's a tons of things you can do with that little lot to make it beneficial for everybody. Plant some fruit trees, make it a green space. Keaton Beach doesn't need another 20-foot story house. It doesn't need another camper. We got all that. What we need is somebody to take care of that community. We need a new little Keaton Beach, welcome to Keaton Beach sign. I want Keaton Beach to be beautiful. I want it to be beautiful. And please just don't there's lots of things you can do with that little lot. Don't sell it. Let me keep mowing it. And just keep it beautiful. Whoever buys it, there's that beautiful green fir tree. They're gonna cut it down. Whoever buys it's gonna cut it down. And I know everybody don't like them stinky pelicans, but I love them. And it's beautiful watching them flying it out. It's beautiful watching those ducks swim in there. It's fun watching them gators slide in there and watch them where they're going. I just think if you're.
Would you be all right with people back and forth on those crab traps out there and unloading them on their crab boats? Would that be would you be against that?
You know what, to be honest with you, I would not. As long as they were respectful, cause I love the crab, I love watching, you know what, my favorite thing to do at night is sit in my swing and watch them come in and out, and I wave to them every time. So honestly, I'm not against it.
As long as they didn't leave trash out there.
Leave their traps right there, where I couldn't go out and I didn't have to smell, you know what I'm saying? As long as I'm giving you my honesty. I'm being honest. A lot of people probably wouldn't want the crab. I don't care if they come up there and load and unload their boats, as long as they didn't. My house is right. As long as when I open up my kitchen window in the spring and the summer, I didn't have to, you know, as long as there's some kind of protection in place, you know, back them up there. Hell, I'll go over there and help them. I enjoy that. But I just don't wanna, you know, of course I don't want them leaving them there, but I'm just asking them just to be respectful of people like us we don't have a lot of money. I can feel for them. They work hard for their money. I work hard for my money. You know, I do too. Y'all wouldn't believe the things that I've done for people working in the nursing field. So I'm just saying, you know, just take care of people. Take care of people. You know,
That's what we were trying to do, give the gentleman that was wanting to do his crab traps there, the reason this all started.
Yeah.
We were trying to help somebody that was a commercial crabber have a place to unload the crab traps, where all this started from.
Yeah.
So there is no restricted covenants in Keaton Beach subdivision, so you can do what you want to. That's Keaton Beach subdivision, so I can open a small engine shop there if I want to tomorrow. That's, you know what I'm saying? There's no covenants there.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
You know how when you build a subdivision, you have covenants and, you know.
Yeah.
I've built several of them. So when I moved here, I thought this was a subdivision, but apparently it's not. So I can, you know, start a business,
Mr. Webb,
or a junkyard if I want to.
is there a homeowners association?
No, ma'am, they ain't nothing.
Okay.
Just don't cut the tree down. I'm just so worried about this little lot that I don't even own, and I know this, but I'm worried about the value, you know, I'm just worried.
We're gonna try and buy it. We're gonna try and buy it.
We'll try.
I have got a friend that can buy it right now
Okay.
in La Paul, Georgia. We want first option.
Yeah.
I can give it bought if I can't come up with all of it.
You know, my preference would be not to sell it, to just let it be natural, let it just be natural. You know, I don't know, thanks. I'm just being honest. Mr. Chair.
I would bet that most people in Taylor County doesn't care if we don't sell that property. I heard what you just said, but I'll bet if you talk to most people, they say, I'm not, you're gonna stand up and say, y'all sell it. I bet most people don't care if we don't sell that property. And at the end of the day, you know, I have to lay my head down on a pillow, and sometimes you just have to do what you feel like is right. we don't have to sell the property. And I just feel like, for me, and I'm only speaking for me, one commissioner, I think the right thing for me to do is to say, no, let's just leave that property alone, because I don't think most people care if we sell it or not, to be honest with you. It's just us commissioners that came up with, okay, let's sell it. But most people, I don't think, would care.
Well, would you be fine with somebody using it, a taxpayer using it?
If it's county property, then, Mr. Bishop, they would have the right to use it. If they have the right to use it, then, you know, you can't, that's a
Very
question.
similar to a road,
Sir?
very similar to a road, as long
Right.
as they didn't build on it, or, you know, or plant a garden on it, or that sort of thing, if they just.
Well, all started this was a gentleman just wanting to use it, you know, and that's where all this stemmed from. And so it'd be hard to not tell somebody, you know, they couldn't use it.
You could give him a license.
I'm not for somebody using it that's gonna do something that's offensive to the neighbors. If it's offensive to the neighbors would have to tell you that.
I would have to say, when all that was going on, there were a majority of folks who did not want crab traps in their neighborhood. Now, I know that's a multi-use property as far as those parcels. They're used for different purposes. But I heard from a majority that they were not for crab traps in their neighborhood. But that part, I can assure you.
Maybe if we sell it, we get it out of our hair and it'd be on the responsibility of the
I
person.
think that's what brought the board to this point, is the issues of folks wanting to use that property because they're taxpayers.
Yeah.
And then folks in the neighborhood saying, not here, because that was a resounding answer that was conveyed to me as their commissioner. That they were not supportive of crab traps for any period of time being on those parcels in their neighborhood.
I can remember when Keaton Beach didn't have nothing but a few houses and the commercial people was all the ones there.
And I respect that, and I'm not against those folks, and I do support the business, but I'm just telling you what I was told by a multitude of folks. The majority of those folks are not in support of that.
And it seems like we're making this complicated. You know, we're making this complicated, and I don't see where it's complicated. We don't have to do anything, but we do need to protect people's quality of life. And if that means that you can't put a bunch of crab traps or whatever else would be offensive, there may be other things that's offensive. But we don't have to do anything.
I'll tell you what, if Mr. Collins wanted to buy the lot next to it, would you be willing to sell it to him?
I would. And if the other people wanted to buy the lot by them, they need to get out of here and do it too. And then that would increase the value of both of the property to have those.
Could we allow the attorney to research that, to see if we could offer that to the Webbs as the other adjacent landowner? And then make that available to both adjacent owners of both these parcels?
And that won't never come before us again, about the crab traps and whoever traps you have out there.
Would that be okay with you folks?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm 70 years old, and, you know, at this point in my life, you know, I hadn't planned on buying, you know, spending another $58,000, you know, on another piece of property. As to address the crabbers, of course, you know, crab traps smell, but the issue was that they were backing down along the guardrail and loading and unloading off the embankment of the bridge, which was a liability also for the county. You know, in addition to being there on the bridge with the guardrails, you know, the traffic coming through there. So there was multiple reasons that residents objected to the crabbers. I have nothing against crabbers. I mean, I couldn't do the job, but I admire them, you know, making a living the way they do. But that was the, you know, part of the reason. And, but, you know, it just wasn't safe. And right there on the bridge with the guardrails, it's not, the way traffic goes along that bridge over there, I mean, it's just, should stay like it is. And I know that's probably what y'all don't want to hear, but, you know, it's just, it's not conducive for any real activity there. I mean, it's because of the bridge, the guardrail, the traffic, and, you know, being right there, you know, where it is. You know, y'all consider that also.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like that if we move forward and say, we're gonna sell this and we're gonna give, for instance, Mr. Collins the option to buy it. And you have a retired gentleman that had, like you said, you had not planned on having to spend another almost 60 grand. And I feel like it backs him up in a corner. And it feels like we're saying, okay, Mr. Collins, you can buy this property. And if you don't buy it, we're gonna sell it to whoever can come up with the money, and they can do whatever they want to with it. And that, to me, just does not feel right. I'm done.
Okay. So now, from what I understand, we're gonna have Mr. Bishop look at this and see, can we sell this, Mr. Collins?
As an adjacent landowner pursuant to the statute.
Okay.
Y'all, nobody's breached the lease business, have they? Okay.
And Mr. Webb?
We already can sell to
Yeah,
Mr. Collins.
We already can do?
We can, he can get first off.
Okay.
right, because it's under subsection 2.
Mr. Bishop is gonna check on
Mr. Webb?
Well,
the fee side, Mr. Webb.
All right. That's our direction. Okay? We need to move to number 5, another loaded one. The board to discuss county-owned lots and seawalls at Keaton Beach.
Commissioners, the last time, we visited this topic, there were 2 parcels. I've put a copy of the original map that we created for you. This is again, in Keaton Beach. Linda Russell owned lot 17, block C, unit 1. It appears that Taylor County owns the adjacent lot. And there were some issues with her seawall. The board did ask that she complete the repairs on that seawall, and that's the last time we visited that topic. I would say, I believe in July, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Russell sold this property to Mr. Greg Allen, who is with us tonight, and he reached out to me several weeks ago and asked me if I could provide a status to him of where the county stands on the ownership and the potential repair of that seawall. As I said, he's with us tonight, and he's asking for a status, which I don't have because we have not discussed it in quite some time. So, I have heard that the lot across the street has possibly sold as well. So we have the same issue with seawalls that need to be repaired. on property that appears to own to the county, appears to belong to the county. And, but we are starting this process again with new owners.
That's the Denver Flemings?
Yes. Now, I spoke with the property appraiser today, and she could not confirm that that property had sold, but, we think that it may have new owners at this point. So we're basically back to where we started with the discussion of the seawalls.
Go ahead.
On that particular seawall, the Russell seawall, didn't we have our engineer look at this and didn't he deem that there was?
No, we hired an engineer an independent engineer to look at both parcels. And, from what I recall, he deemed that it was structurally sound at that time, but it did need to be backfilled. And
Needed to be backfilled?
yes, and did notate that the construction or repairs were, maybe rough. But that, you know, there needed to be further work obviously done on those seawalls. So I think that, and I don't know if the property owner wishes to speak before I go any further. I think that he's looking for some direction or from clarification from the board as far as the repairs that you've started making on the main canal, correct?
Well, I am. I mean, I just bought the property, so
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna fix that. I mean, that's my responsibility.
The main canal. So this is the Keaton Canal that, runs under the bridge. So we basically have the same problem with the two properties. We have not clarified that, I mean, we haven't done a title search, we haven't done a survey, we certainly haven't done an appraisal to try to get further clarification. We were just simply working with Ms. Russell because she had started the repairs, but it was taking quite a long time, for them to be complete.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could we get that information for both of these minor parcels, or whatever the footage it might be, the title search and the square footage?
Now, I need your opinion, Mr. Bishop. Would we want a title search for only the area that's outside of the waterway if we're trying to establish the ownership of the actual land? Not the canal itself, but the actual land that's adjacent to these two properties.
Thinking that it's ours? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I know we would, well, the title search obviously, but if we were to get a survey, would we want a survey of the entire lot or only the parcel that we need to decide any future disposition?
Both.
Okay,
Yeah, that's lot 18, block C unit, right? And block 17 in unit 3?
Conrad, do you
16,
understand my
17.
question?
No.
Okay, so my question is, if we ask for a survey, do we want to ask for a survey of only the land or the area outside of the canal?
This is Mr. Allen's lot, this is what the county owns.
This will be the dry ground.
The dry ground?
Okay, now, what other ground down the other side there, dry ground? If that lot is 50 by 100,
The waterway.
The waterway.
okay, you don't want to survey the water. The water doesn't belong to us, right?
No, it belongs to us, but there's really no question about any ownership of that.
Okay.
I think the question is that strip of property,
Yeah, 50 by 100?
no, only the dry ground.
Decreasing, you know, that's the problem.
Can you go back in time and look at that? I don't know if the property appraiser or who would have, before the Russells bought it, and look at the look at it then versus, and compare it to after Mr. Russell started putting in the seawall and put a lot of dirt in there, and that, it collapsed, and a lot of dirt went down into the canal. Has that established a new boundary? And could we compare that to before he bought it and before that happened? Because I think you'll see a difference.
I don't know.
Could we check on that and see? I'd sure like to compare that, because
Well, did,
that indeed happened.
yeah, let me ask you this then. Did this happen while Mr. Russell was here on the council, on the commission?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
Back when he was first time.
Okay, but he was on the second time when I came on and we talked.
He didn't, I don't remember him doing nothing with that there while he was on the council the second time.
It was about somewhere along the time period of, I would say 1999, maybe in that time period. We bought our house in, I believe, 97. And it was after that that Wilkie Gibson sold that piece of property that Mr. Allen now owns. Wilkie Gibson sold it to Frank Russell. When Frank Russell acquired the property, and I'm sure there's information on that, that's when he attempted to put in that seawall that fell in. And I mean, a bunch of dirt fell down the side of the canal, and nothing was ever done about it. So did that establish a new boundary? That's my question.
Well, I would think whether dirt or no dirt, the boundary is what it is whenever the survey is done. I mean,
Right.
at that point, once the survey is completed, then somebody got to decide who's gonna take it back to where it's supposed to be.
Well, that's why I was asking about a survey with title search, so that we can understand
Well,
what that area is.
when you're on the water, there's accretion and decretion. You know, you understand what I mean by accretion and decretion? Everybody understand that? You have a storm and it takes away part of your land, or you have a storm and it puts more on your land. So, talking about a survey of the dirt, as learned county administrator asked me, that's why I equivocated in the answer, because, oh boy, we spend money getting a survey done, and it will be accurate at that point, but for how long?
I understand what you're
You
saying.
see what I'm saying? So,
So a survey would only be useful if the board wanted to somehow dispose of that property.
if you can abandon that property like you can a road.
Well, I think that's been kicked around a little bit of abandoning the property, since the only benefit, I think, is to the adjoining property owners.
Sure. Well, I don't know that the way you abandon a road would be the same way. That's another question.
Mhm.
But, again, I think the whole point of the seaway, if I remember the seawall dispute, was that, number one, we did find out that it was sort of kind of structurally sound, but it was ugly.
Both of them are.
And they're ugly, and they affect the people who are in fact close to that property. It affects their valuation, at least that's what they say. But of course, now with the boom, it might not, it might be worth more, you know? But how long is that boom gonna be around? You know, who knows? Somebody who does know is gonna be real smart. I don't know.
Okay.
So, again, I think the smart thing to do would be to, you know, that the county, of the property that the county owns, can fix their portion of the seawall. We talked about that ad nauseum,
We have.
your county administrator and me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so the board may want you to get an estimate as to how much it would cost. I don't know that you want to do that or not.
Well, you know, I was thinking about it. From what I can understand, you know, it's a lot of talk to be done about Keaton Beach and Steenhatchee, and a lot of people wanna move there, the property's changing titles, changing hands. And then every now and then you hear about abandoning. If you got something already established, why abandon it if it's cheaper to fix it than abandon it?
Well, what I was talking about though was, you know, I'm not talking about any property that's owned by somebody else. I'm talking about property that's owned by the county.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's your responsibility to keep this building up, right?
Yeah.
You know, how often does it get painted? To me, about every 5 years, doesn't it? I think
Maybe a
that's
little
what I
longer than
think.
that.
You know, to settle the thing, and then when somebody comes in complaining, you can say, well, number one, on the property that the county owns, the county has fixed its portion of the seawall. If you want any more seawall work done on your property, you can do it.
You can see here on this aerial, a track hose sitting there by that seawall that's coming apart there. You can see it on the aerial. You can see the hole. You can actually see the track hose sitting there that dug the hole next to the bridge right here.
That's on 17-17-3?
On
Yep. 16.
Look at the seawall right there and look at that track hose sitting right there. Somebody was working on that seawall at one time. It had to be the landowner, the adjacent landowner.
But now we're gonna get to repair what they might not, or might have done.
That's right. Somebody had a track over there when they owned that house right there, digging right there on that seawall. You can see the track hose sitting on the property right there and the hole dug in front of it.
From what I recall, that property owner had attempted to obtain a permit from her, this is only what she said. She attempted to obtain a permit from Army Corps of Engineers to repair the seawall, and she was told they would not grant her a permit because it was not in her name. She also told me that after a storm had gone through, she applied, there was damage to the seawall, to that seawall. She tried to get funding to repair the seawall, and she was told that property belongs to the county. So I believe her frustration was that, she was somewhat limited in what she could do because the property was not in her name. Which is why she came back to the board and asked for assistance. And I think the concern with performing any maintenance on these seawalls is that it would set a precedent. I don't know that there may be other properties that we have this same situation. I have no way of knowing in Keaton Beach and Cedar Island and other places. So if we do this, you know, for two property owners, are other people going to be expecting that? And I just don't know.
Well, now, you say you're doing it for two property owners, you're doing it on property that's owned by the county,
Right.
okay? You're not doing it on property that's owned by somebody else.
I think the question is who receives that benefit?
Well,
And I know you can look at this from both sides. I understand both sides.
well, essentially, you're doing it to stop and finally, again, kicking the thing down the road, you know? It's not necessarily helping anybody other than the fact that you're doing what you're supposed to do and keep your, you know, you're supposed to mow your own grass, you know? But
understand, and I believe our ordinance, speaks to property owners keeping up their seawalls.
Let me ask this, person that own the land doesn't own to the seawall, right?
I don't, from what I understand on that parcel, and again, I don't know this for fact, this is just what I've heard, but that seawall was not constructed by the county. It was constructed by the previous property owner. I don't know about on lot 16, or excuse me, on lot 17. I don't know who built that seawall, but from what I understand, on lot 18, that was not built by the county.
Okay.
Is that accurate? Is that what you understand, Commissioner Moody?
What I remember, the landowner built the seawall.
Mhm.
It wasn't the county. All the county done was put an apron by the bridge. And you can see the apron on this big old block right there, that comes off the bottom of the bridge, at the handrail of the bridge right there, a little apron that come out. And whoever owned that lot before them, or whoever before, built that seawall. I know, Jarvis on the other side of the road over there, he told me that they had worked at their seawall, or, sometime back, so, I don't know. I remember when Frank added dirt on that lot over there, he got back past the apron and started a new seawall. And he was building it out of cross ties, the best I can remember. And that's the business that fell in, all them cross ties, because he had them stacked up
Yeah.
on top of each other, and didn't have no way of tying all of them back, and then they all fell in the canal with the dirt, and that's what she remembers about it.
Yeah, Commissioner Moody, I'm almost 100% sure that before Frank did that, there was no seawall whatsoever there.
No, there wasn't nothing but rocks there on the edge of that canal.
And I think that he was trying to build it up and fill it in with dirt so it would be more usable for him.
That's exactly what happened right there.
That's my recollection.
On both sides. That's that track over on that other side, looks like they was building a seawall on that picture right there, or tearing one out, that goes back. And I believe Marshall Hicks owned that house and lot right there years ago. I think that was it Marshall Hicks years ago, he sold that house to whoever you might have bought it from, but I'm not sure.
I own Frank Russell's property.
Sir, you own Frank's lot, not the one across the street?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Is there another copy of that I can look at it while y'all?
I believe Marshall Hickman built that house in Southern.
Russell was just trying to gain dirt.
He was on Russell was on 17, and Mr. Hicks was on 16, I believe.
So my side of the canal is the only part that this problem is, which is me and Denver, Fleming.
Well, I don't know. These two parcels have been identified. I don't know if there are other parcels of where it's the same situation.
What are we recommended to do?
And see, when Frank started that seawall, I don't know that he had any kind of a survey. I wanna think that he just went out there and said, I'm gonna build a seawall, and I'm gonna fill it in with dirt, and this is where I'm gonna put it. I think.
Well, nobody would question it, because nobody
That's
really,
right.
any individual would have not known the county, including me. I thought that was Frank Block when he built that seawall there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when he went to build
He
it.
might have known.
Well, who would think that the county would own a sliver of land on these two properties? That would affect these two lots.
They didn't, it used to be a canal.
Right.
I don't understand why they had those pieces of property when those lots were sold. It seemed like they were sold it all the way to the water, It seems like, when, that was years ago, and that land has changed hands over the years a bunch of times.
On both sides?
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
It was rock, and then when they built the seawall, they went past the rock and built the seawall, which then put the land
increase the land onto the county's property, which used to be a canal.
That's what I remember.
So that was, so the dirt was placed there. That, you, okay, I understand.
Facility into the seawall.
So it's actually pushed the seawall, or made that part
Looks like it narrowed the canal, did it?
Well, it ended up putting the seawall on the county.
on county property, is what Gary's
On
saying.
both sides.
Okay.
I'm just gonna tell you what I was told. That Mr. Jarvis got in touch with the Corps of Engineers, and basically that side, they told him they didn't care how far you came out, as long as you didn't come out past the point of where you went through the bridge. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm well inside of that now. You understand? I mean, there's probably 4 foot of water for the canal that you're talking about. The access through the bridge part. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So even though it went out there, it's not affecting the canal. Mr. Russell,
If for instance, you own that parcel that say county owns now, would you work the seawall and make it,
you ain't got no choice.
that's right, or lose your land?
That's right. Somebody's going to have to fix it.
Or you would have to build a retaining wall. If you don't repair, if the seawall's not repaired, you could build a retaining wall within your property boundaries.
I thought I owned it.
No, I understand.
So I've been investigating it. I've investigated it to death.
You didn't get a survey done when you bought it?
Huh?
You didn't get a survey done when you bought it?
I did not.
Okay.
Somebody surveyed it that week though. And that's how I found out that I didn't own it. I don't know if Miss Russell did it. I don't know who did it.
Did the realtor tell you you owned it?
No, sir. And that's my fault, but, I mean, it's all irrelevant. I mean,
Right.
it really comes down to who's gonna fix the wall now. I know I'm responsible for the wall on the main canal, because I own that property. We're talking about maybe 4 feet.
I have no idea how much, looking at these lines on these aerials are not correct. It could be 5 foot one way or the other, or 20 foot.
Yeah.
About the only way you can look at it is you see a property line that runs a roof line. You see a roof line over here going right into a house up here on 14. You know, so that tells you that these lines that you're looking at on this aerial, they're actually shifted back they should be shifted back to the north. Without doing a survey on it, on lots on both sides and know where all the corners was, there's really no way of knowing who owns what right there, legally, I would think.
Well, if we do a survey one time, we will establish the corners.
Well,
Then we know
you get two
what-
different surveyors, you're gonna have two different corners in Butler County, 9 out of 10 times.
Then split the difference.
Hey, might wash away, Mr. Diddy. Wash away the loss.
Well, you know, you gotta find something, or we gonna have this thing next year.
We need to do something with this.
Could we have staff do the survey on these two areas?
After the survey, all it's gonna be doing is to decide where, if we're gonna have to back the seawall up, and who's gonna be responsible for it.
Well, not necessarily. I think, Mr. Allen said that he would be willing to maintain that if he had
You
that.
wouldn't wanna back the seawall up.
No,
Corps of Engineers, when I dealt with them, if you had a seawall, they'd let you put the new seawall 1 foot in front of it. When you rebuild the seawall, instead of tearing one up and dumping all the dirt in the canal, they say, just get 1 foot in front of it. Corps of Engineers, DEP told me this, standing right there, I say, well, did Jim get right in front of it a foot, put down the new seawall, and then take the old one down and fill back in that foot, you know, that's what they always did.
there might be a foot variance
Right.
of what was existing.
So if we did a survey, Mr. Allen, are you willing to make the repairs to the seawall in that
That's on his property,
And
but not the county property.
No,
Well-
I think you're talking about the county property, right?
we would have to some way or another transfer this property over to him.
Well, now, let me ask you something. I don't know what you paid for the property, but if I understand it's 50 by 100, but we talking about transferring 50 by 100 to him?
No,
You just talking about the little 4
Narrow
feet?
strip.
A little sliver of what hasn't been washed away.
It would be the dry land
Yeah.
adjacent to the canal is all, but I don't know how to identify a legal description for just that sliver. If we have a boundary survey of the entire lot that the county owns,
That's why I said that you do both.
okay,
Okay.
so,
What'd you say?
That's why I said initially, when she asked me that terrible question, I said both.
Well,
Survey of
that's
both.
what we need to get to know. Or we will always have the same problem.
Right. You can look at the aerial here, what the property owns on the south side of that canal, and their county property line comes over past their seawall on this aerial right here. So you know there's issues with the survey right there, with it, you know, how these lines are laid out.
Here's what I said. If I'm not mistaken, I said, you do the survey,
Okay.
okay? And whatever the survey, and they take the deed that you got and they survey it on the ground. And then you repair what the seawall is on your property, meaning the county property, and you're done. Right? I mean, that's what I said.
Yeah.
If
When
we
we
give
don't
the piece of property over to the adjacent landowner, and with our understanding, they're gonna repair the seawall, wouldn't that be legal too?
Why would you wanna give your property away to somebody else?
I'd rather give a 5-foot strip, somebody else build a seawall, and the taxpayers have to build a seawall
Well,
on
if
somebody else's lot.
If it's got if the lot got $155,000 value on it,
It's hitting a 50 by 100, but what Mr. Jim says is.
5-foot wide, 5-foot piece of property.
It's like as wide as the table.
okay, who owns lot 17, unit 3?
This gentleman here does.
It's just a little strip on
You
that
see the
lot.
little strip right there by the canal there?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, giving to the adjacent landowner.
Mr. Chairperson, and there's another reason, in the future, if there's storm damage to the seawall, then my concern is that the adjacent property owner, if you don't own that property, cannot apply for benefits because the ownership is to the county.
Okay.
I believe it would be best to request staff the survey for lots 17-3 and 18C.
For both? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Unless somebody else would disagree, I would like to know, like Mr. Bishop said, the area of both.
And a title search?
In other words, you wanna get a survey done on 16 and 17 to know where the county owns the property.
Well, I think these are the two, issues at hand, and we would understand at that point, just how wide is that strip? And then at that point, if Mr. Allen is still willing, and we see that it's a minor amount, and that he would then have the right to, maintain his property, then if there's a storm or anything else, he's got that right, and the taxpayers don't have that liability.
Right. And on the other side of the canal, the same way.
Yes, sir, that's why I said 17-3 on the west, and 18C on the east.
And 19,
Well, it's really the Taylor County blocks, 17 and 18.
Right. The, right.
Canal itself.
That would establish what the county's ownership is. And it would then put away the variance as to how wide's that sliver? And really, what are we talking about?
well, all four lots on either side of the canal really need to be surveyed if you're going, I mean, the piece of county-owned property on both sides of that canal, if you look at the thing there.
Well, I think if you survey that 17 unit 3, if it's a rectangle, you're gonna establish that boundary on every side. Same thing for.
Okay, you talking about not just doing a little strip on either side, you're talking about making a whole boundary.
Yes.
In other words, it'll go on from 17 to 19, 18, back to 16.
It'd be a rectangular survey of the county's ownership.
I got you.
But then there would be a separate survey of everything that's not inside, everything that's dry land.
Correct. That would distinguish the size of the dry ground sliver.
And then
Cause
you
a
find
problem
out,
for Mr. Allen.
and with those, and you would want a legal description
Right.
by meets and bounds, and then the title search could take that description, and you can find out what you own.
Okay.
Instead of saying, well, we own this,
Right.
Yeah.
let's find out for sure. Make sense?
Yes,
So, I can't hear you, but are you saying that to get the survey and then, decide who has ownership, and whoever has ownership has to fix those two sides?
Exactly.
I mean, that's easy. We've spent 2 hours talking about this, that seems to be pretty easy. Survey it, whoever owns it, fix it. If he owns it, he fixes it. If we own it, we fix it. I'm not for giving anything away, because we get beat up every time we give away county property. If it's our property and whatever the expense is of building a seawall, that's just
That's the way it is.
part of, that's the way
Ownership.
it is, just take it like you say.
Do you think the citizens are okay with paying to fix someone's seawall?
Say again?
Do you think the citizens of Taylor County would be okay with paying to fix someone's seawall that don't benefit no one else but one person?
No, but if we own that property, I think we have a responsibility to have a seawall there, right?
We're
Not if we don't retain it.
They're not. My suggestion was that we find out what property is owned by the county. You do that by one surveying and then title searching. And if that property has a seawall on it, just the strip has a seawall on it that needs repair, you repair it. The rest of the stuff is up to the landowner who owns the other property. You follow what I'm saying? Now, if somebody complains about that, you could say, look, it's the county's responsibility to, in fact, keep things, in repair.
I'd like to understand, of course, getting a survey and understanding the footage. But I think it would also be diligent to understand what's the value of that usable ground versus the cost of having to maintain or construct a seawall. So if we see where there's gonna be a huge difference between what that value is versus what that costs, and the maintenance is gonna continue to be, I think the diligent path would be to seek a way to not get into seawall business. So in this particular case,
Well, you do
Mr.
one
Allen
step.
is a willing neighbor.
Yeah.
And if we determine, look, this strip is of this square footage, and this strip is also gonna demand that you maintain, that you construct to maintain this type footage of this type seawall, and here's what these continuing costs are gonna be.
Right, well, again, and, I'm not gonna say anything more unless y'all ask me another question. I'm teasing, of course.
I got you on record.
Yeah, you got me. It's a process. You gotta start, and then you might find out that you don't need to go forward, or you may need to go forward. And
But you
that's
gotta
a
have a
decision
survey.
that you 5 folks needed to, but you gotta start. See, because you're just treading water, pardon the pun, in the canal, you know. So, and like I said, I'm gonna stop.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes, ma'am.
Commissioner English asked me a question. Was I willing for the county to build a seawall for a private landowner? The answer is absolutely not. I would never support doing that. But if I was a landowner and there was such a dispute as this, and the county is saying, well, we gotta do which I agree, we gotta do a survey to see who owns what. But then the county says, well, you know, if we own it, we're just gonna give it to him, and you're gonna have to do it. And if it was, I'd say, county, I don't want it, that's your property, you do the seawall. If it's my property, I'll do the seawall. Does that make sense?
But the only thing is with that, the county didn't build them seawalls on both sides of that canal. The landowner did, the one that bought those lots did.
I mean,
That's why I was saying, you'd be getting in the business of constructing and maintaining a seawall, and that could unravel into who knows what. So I'm in favor of, please get a survey, and let's do a title search for deeds to Parsons.
I mean, it's far-fetched, but you know, once you go and build that seawall, and you still got X amount of footage of county property there, what's wrong with a crabber wanting to come up there and throw his traps on the hill and walk into his trailer?
That's right.
At that point,
If he can
That's
fit
dry
on,
ground you talking about.
let him come.
I mean,
That's true. He's a
yeah,
taxpayer too.
he's a taxpayer, that's a strip of land, that's county property. Why can't he use it?
One of the problems is he couldn't get to it without crossing my land, because of the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you ain't giving them no easement.
Your property
That
runs on.
brings you right back to, we have no use for it, give it to the
Adjacent
landowner.
landowner.
For a price.
That's right.
Well, let's get an offer.
Looks like you need to go ahead and get a survey, like you said. You've been up
Well,
to
y'all
that.
put it on the agenda and decide what you want to do.
Okay, you got your instructional one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, we need to put it on the next agenda for approval.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the board to discuss placement of benches along the walking path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I put that on the agenda. It's been suggested that we put a few benches around there on that walk. There's elderly people, the people that talked to me were elderly, and I know all ages of people walk around the sports complex. And, this one couple said, you know, that, they try to walk it, and if they just had a place to sit down and, cool off and rest, and then they could walk on. And if you see a lot of pathways, wherever, you see benches where people can sit and, you know, just sit for a while. So I told them that I'd bring it before the board and, see if there was an opportunity for us to put a few benches around there.
I got no problem with it.
I'm fine with that. I use that walking trail riding a bike, just like a lot of people do.
I'd sit down if there was a bench back there if I needed
I
to.
don't have a problem with anything to do to enhance it for what the citizens may want to benefit them. I don't, and there's a lot of work going on out there.
So the question is, where do we, I mean, I don't wanna wait 5 years until we can find some funding for such a small expenditure as this.
Well, why don't we get some prices? And because I think you would want to put the benches on concrete, you would just want to put them
Sure.
on bare dirt and see what it would cost. I mean, how many benches do we want? 3?
I have no idea, let's,
I think 3 would do it, on that back side there, I think they would, you know.
are there, if you walk the whole thing, beginning at the basketball court and go all the way back around, how far is that? Is it a half a mile, quarter of a mile?
It's probably 3/4 of a mile around that thing, I would think.
So if you just put them on that back side, what's gonna happen when you get on around there by the baseball fields?
I think there's some benches on that
No.
side, isn't there?
Okay, I don't know.
I haven't paid no attention to no benches, because I was always moving, but you know, I know the bridge back there's got a handrail, I've seen people stop there at the handrail and sit there, and you got some exercising machines that you can sit on there,
Let Greg, let Greg and somebody
Okay.
else look at that and just see what the recommendation is. I
I've
can't
already
say 3
mentioned
or
it.
5 or 10 or 2, I don't know.
And I think we're placing some picnic tables in some other areas, as part of the, FERDAP grant. So that's something that we can look at.
And I would think about us putting benches, you know, back in the wooded area, by walking, I don't think someone's gonna wanna just sit down. I mean, I would put a bench in the wooded area, but I would think maybe something in front of the baseball field and the soccer field area where people can just sit and watch people when they do sit down. They've got something to look at anyway, other than trees. Now, one back in the wooded area and a couple on that, I think would probably be.
Back there by the creek, where the creek comes through, by the bridge there, that would be a beautiful spot, and shade right there to have one, you know? And then on that long curve, when you head back down, east, right there's some shade right there, you could have another one there. There's one place back there on the Walker Trail that floods when the water comes up real high, you know, it'll be that deep on top of the asphalt back here, you know?
Yeah.
But most of it, dry, high and dry, you know?
I think people would be really pleased with the board putting some benches there, and it's not a big expenditure. And it would be a nice enhancement for everybody, young and old.
So I can bring a recommendation back from staff with some cost.
Okay.
Probably not at the next meeting, but the meeting after that,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Sounds like a good deal to me. Vote to discuss master project list.
So I will say that a couple of projects that are not on this list, that we just, did not add to the list is the skinning of the field at the sports complex and the disc golf course that I would like to give you a quick update. We are hoping that the contractor will give us a firm date any day. We expect the project to take about 3 weeks.
Him in the fields.
Skinning the fields, yes, and capping the irrigation. And then we are actually working on pouring the concrete for the T-pads, hopefully either this week or next. Staff has been working with that group. We've got signs ordered, on the way. The design was approved yesterday. We've received a lot of the equipment, so that project's moving along very nicely. And we're hoping to finish that soon. We're doing half the T-pads at a time. And our, Mr. Gregg and Mr. Oakland have worked, and the citizen group has worked very hard to help us with that. Other than that, the only, project that I do need some assistance with is we've not made any forward movement on the parking area for Forest Capitol Hall. I do need to get with each commissioner to just define what area where we want to resurface. There was a lot of discussion, but, we never really came to a landing point. I think that we understand that whatever is, whatever needs to be resurfaced that's currently asphalt, we need to obtain a design for that. And then there was discussion about the area next to the doors that's currently lime rocked. But is that where we want to stop, or do we even want to think about, I know there was discussion about going behind the building, going around behind, but I am worried that would add considerable expense to the project.
I looked at it today, and those areas that just got lime rock, that sure needs to be part, I think, needs to be part of the paving project.
Right.
Because you got the pavement, then you got to walk across that lime rock and holes before you get to the sidewalk up there.
And you're talking about the area adjacent to the doors?
Yeah, right.
Not on back this way, but,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Can we do, a field trip and advertise it? I'm waiting to hear a response about the paper. If you advertised it, what would be wrong with it?
I can research that, but the last one I read was something, that folks went on a field trip and they got in trouble. Because you're supposed to have the neatness and so forth. My suggestion would be that each one of y'all go individually, but also that, it be videoed, not you video it, but somebody from the county video it for y'all to look at it that way. That make sense?
I tried to look at Google Maps, but it just, I couldn't ever get it into a usable paper.
If you have a video and you put it up on the,
Everybody needs to take a little walk through there and look at it, really, then you'll feel more comfortable about it.
If we could all just, you know, if we could have a field trip and it be legal, you know, we could all, you know, we could talk about it, nobody's hiding anything, and.
Well, I can tell you, years ago, the Board of County Commissioners from Lafayette County all rode together up to the Capitol to appear before the governor and the attorney general, the cabinet and everything, to fight with the sheriff of Lafayette County to determine, you know, his budget. Then what they would do too is, over my chagrin, they would all go to they had all day meetings. They'd have one meeting a month, and they'd all go to Ms. Roxy's Cafe and sit at a table and eat dinner there from 12 to 1. And a guy banker came in and says, "Oh, you're violating the sunshine law." And that guy, one of my commissioners, said, "No, Mr. Bishop's here to keep us straight." You know, and I told him, "Don't do that." You know.
So I can schedule meetings with individual commissioners.
Well, again, to be on the abundance of caution, another trite cliche that I use. Can you hear me?
Yes,
A
sir.
little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. In the abundance of caution, I would be against it, because you probably can do it, but then somebody's gonna complain about it, and then you have to answer the complaint, you probably win. You follow what I'm saying?
I do, but, you know, I have to challenge you a little bit, you know, keep you on your toes too. But when, you know, when we have the legislative day, and we all can, have in the past, all went up there together, that's kind of like a field trip.
Mhm.
Do you advertise that?
Mhm.
Anything ever been said about that?
Well, not to me, but.
I don't have a problem meeting individually if that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Right here in town, we can schedule it.
I drive by it every day.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page about what the design needs to include. And, because you know, it would be hard to add to it once it was complete. And, you know, staff had one understanding, but a lot of time has passed since we talked about it, and it might be better just to refresh everyone's memory and make sure we're all on the same page.
That's okay, you can go out there with all 5 of us at 5 different times. I don't care either way, it's fine with me.
When y'all do make your trip out there, I'd like for y'all to look at one thing I looked at today. When you come off 19, start into Fort Capitol Hall, you go around that pine tree and that flower bed right in the middle of the road.
We wanna keep that file, they will hurt you if you move that.
Well, they talked about if they paved the thing, to do away with that.
Right.
And I don't see spending the money to do away with that tree and that flower bed there when you can just pave around it. They said, well, the roots will interfere with the pavement. It'll take 20 or 30 years for the roots to ever, you know, they can clean them roots off and pave that thing, and it'll be there a long time. I just hate to ruin any more trees out there, because we down to the point now, we losing about 4 or 5 every year. There won't be no big pine trees out there. I hate to move anything
You
else.
have to change the name of the hall then, wouldn't you?
That's right. That's right. I just wish y'all would look at that when it's out there, and y'all, that's gonna come down, have to make a decision about that too, but I don't wanna move that there if we can help it. And it's been that way all my lifetime since that was built, and I'd love to see it stay that way, you know? It's just a little bit.
Close to the trees, but I'm just concerned if you do that kind of work there, you can stress that tree and you're gonna wind up cutting anyway.
Well, if you repave that paving there, I don't know if it'll kill it or not, you know, but it might, you know? But
It's a toss-up.
it's a toss-up, you're right. Anytime you touch a root, When they dug that water line in there, that sewer line in there, they killed some.
That's right, so I mean, it's just another one of those, is it worth the investment, and then you still wind up having to take it out. I mean, and I'm not saying that you have to, I 3 million depths, I think you probably have a pretty good fight.
You could get a forester to go out and do an evaluation, and I don't have an opinion, I don't care one way or another. But a forester could give you an opinion as to what it would do, I would think.
Sure.
But for me, I don't care one way or another.
And $10,000 to the dentist, drew your teeth, 5 years later, it goes bad, he tell you, I done the best I could at that time.
Here's the answer.
My bride is here. Well, if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna leave.
Great. No more? Any questions for Ms.?
No.
Okay, we will go. Okay? All right, what else do you have?
See y'all. Have a good evening.
You don't have to.
No motion needed.
No motion needed. All right.